Good evening. On behalf of Dental Desk Academy, let us now speak about various maxillofacial injuries, which will be a comprehensive guide for all your NEET MDS exams and PSC exams. So today we'll be discussing the mandibular fractures in detail, and the next presentation will be based on mid-face fractures, zygomatic fractures, NOE fractures, and panfacial trauma. So let us begin. We will be discussing the various etiologies and the epidemiology of maxillofacial fractures. We will be understanding the anatomical classifications and the clinical features. Then we will learn how to diagnose these findings and also check the radiological findings. Then we will discuss comprehensive treatment protocols and management. So let us begin. So see, when it comes to maxillofacial trauma, you should know that in India, there is a ratio of that 400 to 600 people per 1 lakh population annually undergo some sort of maxillofacial trauma. It was Hang et al. Who said that the ratio of incidence of fractures is that mandible to zygomatic to maxillary fractures is 6:2:1. Now, when it comes to maxillofacial trauma, males are generally more affected. As you can see in the ratio that they are approximately 3 to 4 times more affected than a female. And the peak age group is in 20 to 40 years of age. Now, the causes, especially in India, are road traffic accidents, interpersonal violence, and also sports injuries. So you can see that the road traffic accidents, that is these vehicular accidents, are most common, followed by assault, then various sport related injuries. Also, last but not least, pathological fractures can also be possible. This means that already some pre-existing disease like osteomyelitis, cyst, or osteoporosis was there, which led to pathological fracture. So again, let us now see what exactly happens. So see, if it is a motorbike accident, generally it is your chin area, which we will speak that it is called as symphysis region, which is generally implicated. Now, when it is a car related accident like a dashboard injury, you will see that your condylar processes are implicated. And if it is physical assaults, generally angle is affected. So let us again talk about mandibular fractures in detail. So mandibular fractures, let me tell you, are the most common type of facial fractures. We know that it is a U-shaped bone and it has bilateral articular heads. Now the fracture of mandible is quite common, and now let us talk about the site. So condylar fractures are the most common with around 29%, followed by angle fractures, followed by symphysis fractures, and then you have your body of mandible fractures. So let me tell you that if you speak about condylar fractures, generally they don't occur in isolation, they occur with a combination. For example, we just discussed dashboard injury in a car. So both your condyles will be affected along with your symphysis will be affected. Whereas if you want to speak about isolated fractures, angle fractures are much more common. So mandibular fractures, especially your angle fractures, can be favorable or unfavorable, but we will be discussing this henceforth. So again, you can see that condylar fractures most common at 29.1%, angle fractures at approximately 25%, and for the rest, you can see it is very much denoted in here, with coronoid process being very rarely implicated at just 1.3%. So now let us talk about the classification of mandible. So the first and one of the easiest classifications out there for mandibular fractures is according to the location, which was given by Dingman and Natwig. So first area which they suggested was symphysis, where symphysis is the area between the incisors. So you can see it here. Between the incisors, you have your symphysis. Then there is something called as parasymphysis, which is lateral to the symphysis, and it is generally the area from the canine to the premolar. So that is just beside or lateral to the symphysis. Then you have your body. The body extends distally to canine, from canine to the anterior border of ramus. So you can see here, the body is extending from the distal aspect of your canines towards the body, or I'm sorry, to the border of ramus. Ramus are the vertical projections in the mandible. Then you have angle. So angle is the junction of basically the body. The body was horizontal and the ramus was more vertical. So that junction, that sudden angulation change is called as the angle. So if you can see it in this diagram which I have drawn here, you can see that we know that along the ramus, you have your insertion of masseter muscle. So generally, the angle is the region from the anterior border of the masseter muscle. And if along the third molar you will draw a parallel line, you will see that it will get close to the posterior superior attachment of masseter. So this is generally the area, that small triangle which is forming, between the anterior border of the masseter and the posterior superior attachment of the masseter. That angle is forming, which is nothing but the junction of your vertical ramus and your horizontal body. And this is the angle of the mandible. As I have told you, again, angle of the mandible fractures are very common. They are very common ipsilaterally, and they are very common due to interpersonal violence. So generally in cases of interpersonal violence, the fracture you will see will be angle fracture, and it will be ipsilateral angle fracture. That means on the same side. Then, so you can see it here. This is the angle, right? So you can see that this is the anterior border of the ramus. I'm sorry, this is the anterior border of the masseter muscle. And here we had the third molar. So we're going to draw this line parallel to the third molar. And this is the actual angle, which is right between your body and right between your vertical ramus. Now, this angle is actually a very weak area. Why is that? Because as you can see, there is a sudden change in the angulation. Along with that, you can see this third molar will be present here. So third molar, because of its presence and because it might be very frequently impacted, it leads to reduced bone mass in the area. So because of the sudden angle change and because of reduced bone mass here, angle becomes an area of weakness. Then you have the ramus. So you can appreciate this is the ramus. So it's a vertical projection between these condyle. This is the condylar neck. So it's a vertical projection between this condylar neck and between this angle. So this is the ramus. You can draw these two lines from the sigmoid notch, and this is actually the ramus area. So this is the coronoid process. Coronoid process is the anterior projection of the ramus, and you must be knowing that temporalis muscle inserts over here. And other than that, you had your condylar process, which has a head, it has a neck and a subcondylar region. So this area is again quite weak. So this was all about Dingman and Natwick classification. So again, you can appreciate this was your symphysis. This right here is the parasymphysis. This is the body. This is the ramus begins from here, and this is the angle with its sudden change, the condylar process and the coronoid process. Also, the area in which these teeth have erupted, this is the alveolus or alveolar area of the mandible. So now let us talk about various areas of weaknesses in the mandible. We already know one. One of them is the angle of the mandible. We know why is it? It is weak because of the sudden change in the angle. Other than that, even your symphysis region, symphysis which is present right over here, because it is a region of bony union of two halves during the first year of life. During the first year of life, see what happens. It doesn't really completely fuse. It takes an year to fuse. So this area remains weak, especially in the first year of life. In parasymphysis, you can appreciate that this mental